Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for watching. We're coming to you live from She Shed Radio Studios. We are here to review week number one. Week number one is almost in the books. CFBBroadcast.com. JB, week one, we just got one game left, and then week one will be complete.
Yeah, Notre Dame and Louisville tonight. One more game, and then we'll hit to week two.
Yeah, Notre Dame coming in tonight is a big 20-point favorite over Louisville, playing at Louisville. But for me, it's going to be interesting to see how Notre Dame bounces back after how they were bounced out of the playoffs like they were last year when they played Clemson. How they going to respond?
Let's see. We'll see tonight.
So we will see. We had a lot going on in week one, so there wasn't a whole lot of matchups between ranked teams.
No.
But we did have some games where we learned about some teams. We had some questions answered, and this thing that we're going through this season, we're going to see who comes out and who makes the playoffs and things like that. Week one, although you didn't have all the matchups, you did have a lot of surprises.
Some surprises in the SEC.
Yeah, particular in the SEC.
In the SEC country where we're from, Alabama.
Yeah,
we had some surprises in the dominant SEC that we always hear about.
Yeah. And I would say, to me, the biggest surprise for me of week one, if you had to if I had to pick the one moment that was the most surprising, it would be Tennessee.
Rocky Top went down to
and how they laid an egg.
Georgia State.
How in the I just
that
cannot,
is as bad can get.
I just cannot imagine that. You know, it is one thing if you are an established team and somebody slips up on you.
This is the first game of the year. They've had all year to get ready for this practice game.
Exactly. And you schedule a team like Georgia State
to practice,
to win that game, to get you bowl eligible. It is a foundation for you to build your program on. And for them to come out and to lay an egg, to me, that's inexcusable.
That's rock bottom.
That is.
It's as bad as when Appalachian State beat Michigan. Maybe even worse.
I think it's worse.
How demoralizing is it for a team like Georgia State that you're paying big money to come in to whip around the field, and they come in to your stadium and beat you?
Yeah, and that's. To me, that's what's so surprising. You gave Georgia State basically $1 million to come in there to take a whipping and for you to go 1-0. And Tennessee had a lot of expectations. They were the fancy pick for the dark horse
of the
East. You know, everybody's going to pick Georgia, of course. And then after Georgia, who? It's trendy. Who would be your dark horse? And
it was Tennessee. Had Florida and Tennessee.
Yeah, but both of them. You had both of them.
Yeah, and a lot of people thought Tennessee was going to be better this year, including me. I thought they were too.
I did too. And I'm really surprised at Jeremy Pruitt that they, and not just that they were beat, but that how dominated they were.
It was ugly. It was ugly. That is a dumpster fire. The message boards were in meltdown. I like to go look at the message boards after a game.
Yeah.
It was total meltdown, and I understand. I understand how they feel. Alabama got beat by Louisiana Monroe in Nick Saban's first year.
That happened.
But his second year, we went 11, 12, 11-0. But this is Pruitt's second year, and he gets beat by Georgia State.
Yeah,
I can't even hear that.
That's inexcusable. And for me, coming from this part of the country, being an SEC fan, it's good when Tennessee is good. And for them to lose a game like they did, to a Georgia State, that's a mark for the whole SEC.
So here's the question. You always hear about the SEC, the gauntlet of the SEC. How is that trending now? I don't see it anymore.
No, I don't either, and I do not see how you could say that the SEC is the. Yeah, I'm sure that they're probably the best conference, but you cannot sit there and say now that they are head and shoulders above everybody.
No, they're
when you had Ole Miss lose to a Memphis American Conference team, you had Missouri losing to Wyoming.
Yes. You
had Kentucky struggling to get by Kent. Was it Toledo or Kent State?
Yeah.
And you had 4 ugly losses in the SEC.
Yeah, I would say that the West is a little stronger, but the East is. I mean, you have Georgia.
Yeah.
And Florida, maybe. I mean, they didn't look good in week 0, but top to bottom, the SEC West is stronger. I would say they had a better showing, but
yeah.
I mean, but overall, I think the SEC is trending toward other conferences. I think you have 2 dominant teams, which of course is Alabama and Georgia, and then the rest of them. You have 2 top-heavy teams.
And I think everybody, and we're going to find out a lot this week about teams that we thought were going to be good. Maybe the teams. I'm really surprised at how mediocre they look, top to bottom. A team like Arkansas really struggled against Portland State. That should not happen. This is the SEC school, and I don't think any conference is better than the SEC, but I do not think that the SEC is head and shoulders above all the other conferences.
Not anymore. I don't think anymore.
If you look at the ACC, they're 4-3. They will probably be 4-4 after tonight, after Notre Dame plays Louisville. We're assuming that Notre Dame is going to beat Louisville. They're a 20-point favorite. They should beat them. But they're just 1-2 against other Power 5 conferences.
Yeah.
Now, that one win was against the SEC school.
It was.
They did. North Carolina did beat South Carolina in what was a rivalry game, and what was a game that, really I think that that South Carolina should have won the game.
They could have won the game.
They should have won the game. They were ahead the whole game.
Yeah, they had 2. I mean, that was a crazy ending to that game. You had a kneel down on 4th down.
Oh, man, what in the world? This guy's making that much money.
I guess he figured, what does he have to lose? Or maybe the quarterback.
To give them the ball back. Give South Carolina the ball back.
Maybe it was miscommunication.
50-yard line or so?
I don't know. It doesn't. Surely Mike Brown has coached long enough to know better than that.
But anyway, North Carolina won the game. And
they did.
That's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But North Carolina won it, but South Carolina had no business losing that game.
No.
The Big Ten was 12-2 overall. They were 0-1 against other Power 5 conferences. The 2 losses they had. They had a loss. Purdue lost. Had an ugly loss
on a last-second field goal.
Last-second field goal.
I believe the kid got it. The kid that kicked the field goal got the game ball and a scholarship awarded. So
that was pretty good to see, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they really didn't play anybody. They're 12-2 though. That's better than a lot of what other people have done. One thing I would like to just mention, we going back to the ACC, Florida State,
total disaster.
I mean, how in the world you are playing at home? You are I would consider you a blue blood.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I mean, over the last 25 years, they have been in the top 5 more than they've not. They've definitely been ranked more than they're not. And they lose to Boise State, which comes to your home, and they play you on your field, and they play with a true freshman quarterback.
It's a dumpster fire. It's a total disaster.
Do you see this getting any better for them?
I don't see it getting any better. I mean, the game was moved there. Wasn't it moved to Tallahassee because of the hurricane?
It was supposed to be in Jacksonville, and they moved it to Tallahassee.
So basically, they gave them an extra home game.
Yeah,
and they lay an
lose
egg.
this game at home.
Yeah, there's trouble there somewhere. Something's not right.
Basically, you have Clemson in that conference and no one else.
Oh, Clemson's got a cakewalk. So
I mean, it's unbelievable. And then when you're talking about conferences and you look at the Big 12, you see, hey, they were 10-0 this week, but against 11-0, they played. Of their wins, 7 of their 10 wins came against FCS competition. So, I watched the Oklahoma game last night, and I will admit, I was impressed a little bit with the Oklahoma offense, but the defense,
I think,
looked like the same defense that has been played all year.
Yeah, I think the defense was a little better on the Oklahoma side. I think they were a little better than they were last year, but Houston's defense was atrocious.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not taking anything away from, Jalen Hurts got the start after he transferred from Alabama, and I like Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
I hope he does really, and it looks like he's going to do really well.
I think he will.
So
Didn't he was he responsible for 6 touchdowns last night?
He was 3 passing and 3 rushing. So
I mean, that was a pretty strong start for Jalen Hurts.
Well, he must feel like he's back in high school when he.
Yeah.
He's played against the SEC defenses.
Yeah.
And now he's in the Big 12.
Yeah.
There's not many teams with defenses there. We saw. It's just honest. That's just the honest facts. They don't play much defense.
They don't.
And he had to feel like this is easy.
He had a good game.
But
he looked very good.
I saw the interview with him after the game, and when the reporter asked him about his stats, he said, "I got to go talk to my boys." He said, "We got some things to clean up." He knows that defense is not gonna win a championship.
Yeah,
he's been in the SEC. He's played at the highest level.
He knows. That's a good point.
But he had a stellar performance. His first game. He made a great decision to transfer, and he made a great decision where he went. He is a good athlete, a great athlete. He's going to have good numbers there.
I wish him luck, and he looked very good last night.
Yeah, he had 508 total yards just for him. Yeah. Oklahoma had 686 total yards. Yeah, and he had 508 of those yards.
He looked good. I'm not going to lie, he looked good, and he's going to put up numbers that he didn't put at Alabama just because of the type of teams, the type of defense that they play in the Big 12. And I wish him luck. And it was a good move for him. It was a good move for Alabama. Best of luck to him. They basically have a 1-game season when they play Texas.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that shakes out. And, we'll find out a little bit more about that game coming up this week and how it shakes out. When you look at the other Power 5 conferences. The Pac-12, they were 8-4. They had some ugly losses. You know, we talked a little bit last week about Arizona losing to Hawaii.
Yeah.
You had several losses in that in the Pac-12 that shouldn't been. One of the Blue Bloods, USC, they lost their quarterback. I seen where he tore his ACL.
He's out for the year. The report I saw today said he's done for the year, and that's probably going to hurt them.
Yeah, that's
time.
going to hurt them because, you know, you've got Todd Helton that's basically fighting for his job.
Right.
And, you know, you hear a lot of these rumors about Urban to USC. We'll see how that shakes out. But I don't believe you would keep hearing these rumors if there wasn't some truth to it.
What about Urban to Florida State?
No.
Would he take the job to jab at the Gators?
I don't think so.
You think he wants to stay out of the state of Florida?
He would go to a blue blood program like USC or Notre Dame, or he just wouldn't do it.
So you think he'll coach again?
I definitely think he will coach again.
Well, he's teaching a leadership class at Ohio State.
Yeah,
so
we'll see how that works at the end of the semester. So we'll see.
What else we got?
But then, you know, you look at the Big 12, the Pac-12. I'm sorry, they were 1-2 against the other Power 5 conferences. So then you see that the SEC, they were 8-4, and they were 2-1 against other Power 5 conferences. But one of those wins was Alabama against Duke. So right. I do not consider Duke a powerhouse. So that was kind of a layup, if you will.
Yeah.
But the SEC had several ugly losses.
Yeah. You had a one game, the Georgia and Vanderbilt.
It was a conference game. Conference game.
And Georgia looked.
So they were 8-4.
Yeah.
And outside of the conference.
Outside.
You had ugly losses with Ole Miss, Tennessee, Missouri, and South Carolina that we've already talked about.
I did not see the Missouri game, but I was interested as the Kelly Bryant transfer from Clemson, or that left Clemson and went to Missouri. So I didn't see the game, but did you see the game?
I didn't see the game, but I do not care. When you lose to Wyoming and you're an SEC team,
it's not a good look.
I don't care where you play. That is inexcusable. And we'll talk about this later on, and then there are 12-point favorites this weekend against Wyoming. I do not see that
the same
one bit.
What is Tennessee is a favorite?
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
I don't see it.
I don't see it either. So basically saying all that to say this, the SEC is just like the other conferences.
It's trending that direction.
It's, you know, and we will see how the rest of the season shakes out. But I think, you know, I still think the SEC, don't get me wrong, I think the SEC is the best conference, but I don't think that they're the head and shoulders above the other conferences. Now, having said that, we will see. Some questions will get answered this week.
It will.
But having said that, let's look at the SEC teams. What teams were you impressed with? Top two first teams that come to mind, Bama and Georgia. I thought Alabama looked good. I thought Tua Tagovailoa, I thought he played outstanding.
He did. I thought they started a little slow. I was not impressed with the offensive line that we've been hearing about. You know, Coach Saban said earlier in the year and throughout that we need to get back to the Bama factor, which to me means being able to pound the football, run the football when you need to. And to me, it looks like we did not improve or even took a step back. We could not run the football when we needed to.
And I agree with that. But, you know, at the same time, I look at that and I look at the receivers that they have.
Well,
how are you going to stop them? And that was the same receivers that they had last year.
Right. But when you get to a good defense that can stop, that can scheme against you, you have to be able to run the football.
I agree with that. And I thought Tua, he played wonderful. I thought he hit the receivers.
He did. He took what the defense gave him.
Judy, I think Judy is the best receiver.
Judy. He's
in college football. I think Waddle is unbelievable. Riggs and Devontae Ruggs and Devontae Smith. How you going to stop them? I thought, but like you, how many times in that game when they played against Duke now, and I realized that Duke had a lot of returning starters on the defensive line, but if you're Alabama and you're competing for championships, you should not be worried about running the ball on Duke. You should be able to run the ball at will. And there were several instances where Alabama could not run the football when it was 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3, and they couldn't run it.
Well, we have a new offensive line.
Yeah.
It's going to take them a little time to gel, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think we'll get better. I hope we get better. But you have to be able to run the ball, and I didn't see the push that I thought we were going to get. We want to go back to being mean and nasty.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Maybe because we're missing a couple of players that we'll be back, and if they shuffle around a little bit, maybe it'll get better. Our best run blocker, is suspended. He'll be back after 4 games.
Yeah.
But you have to run the ball.
You have to. And having said that, it doesn't. They're not going to be tested till later in the year.
Yeah,
look at their schedule.
They have some gimmies.
The teams that we talked about that struggled so much, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Tennessee, they're all on Alabama's schedule. So there's not going to be really, there's a lot. This week, they're a 54-point favorite.
Right. I don't know. That's a high number.
Who is going to test Alabama? They need to be tested. I hope they work that out offensively. Really, from Alabama, that was the only part that I saw that concerned me. Moving to the defense, I thought Alabama's defense, and I thought their freshmen that they lost Moses.
He's gone for the year.
But the 2 freshmen that they put in,
they played good. They played great. You have to give Pete Golding credit for having those 2 18, 19-year-olds ready to play.
Yeah.
I mean, 35 looked like a man.
Yeah.
I mean, and we didn't have many missed assignments.
No.
I mean, you had, Xavier McKinney bringing the wood. And, he said earlier in the year that he wanted to be the alpha dog. He wanted to be the leader. And from what I saw from him Saturday, that's the way he's going. I mean, and we had another freshman that got DJ Dale on the defensive line.
Yeah, he played a good game.
And I think he got the award this week for SEC Player of the Week, maybe.
Really?
Alabama's
going to have talent. That was impressive, and the defense looked good. Secondary looked good. I would say that to me, what is going to be interesting is to see how that offensive line comes together.
Yeah, they'll probably shuffle some people around and try to get some cohesiveness together. I mean, we've got time. They're big, they're strong. We just have to find the right combination, I think.
I agree. Moving from Alabama, talking about Georgia. Hey, that looked like Kirby Smart took basically it was a dominant performance. Georgia dominated Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
They won the game 30-6. and it wasn't flashy, but they did just enough. And to me, what was impressive is that Vanderbilt's usually a tough out early in the year, and Georgia just wasn't having any of that. And we're going to find out about Georgia here in the next coming weeks, but they
took care of business.
They took care of business. It wasn't flashy. It was a good solid win for them. Speaking of which, Texas A&M, I would say that was a solid win.
Yeah, Texas A&M looked good.
They looked good, not great, but we're going to find out about them this week, and we will see.
With Jimbo, he's he develops quarterbacks, and it looks like Mond has. He looks like he's learning. He's learned from last year. They're not going to be. They're going to be tough.
Yeah,
they're going to be tough.
I agree totally. And I'm high on A&M, and we're going to see. Two more teams in the SEC that I would like to talk about. The first one I'd like to mention is the LSU Tigers.
New offense.
Hey,
they did it.
Did you see
the spread? I saw it.
Burrows threw for 5 touchdowns.
I saw it.
We've been told this for years, that LSU is going to undo a new offense, and
I didn't believe it, but I turned it over and I saw a clip with no tight ends, 3 or 4 wideouts, and a RPO or spread offense. I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it either, and I realized that was against Georgia Southern, but they were impressive.
They were.
And we will find out this week when they play Texas how legitimate they are. If they go out there and, they're a slight favorite playing against Texas. Texas is still, I think, feeling they're reaping the rewards of beating Georgia in the Sugar Bowl.
And they look, I know they didn't play anybody, but they look good.
That is going to be an excellent football game this week, and we're going to find out who is to be taken for real, LSU or Texas.
Yeah, that's the game I'm looking forward to watching. I really want to see if LSU sticks with this offense I saw, or if they panic, if things get bad, if they panic and go back to their 2 tight end power eye.
Yeah, that's one thing to come out there and run the spread against Georgia Southern. It's another thing to come out there and run it when the game's on the line against Texas. Will Orgeron allow them to run that offense when the game's tight? So we're going to see. To me, that's the game of the week this week, and there's no other. That's not even a close second.
No.
That game will go a long way in deciding between the SEC and the Big 12 as far as dominance. If LSU loses that game to Texas, imagine the Big 12. They're going to claim,
yeah.
we need to be taking. Why can't we get 2 teams in the playoffs? With Texas and Oklahoma. So that game will go a long way, because I could see 2 teams coming from one conference this year, because I do not see a lot of dominant teams.
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's a long way off, so we'll see.
We'll see. The last team in the SEC that I'd like to talk about is probably the most impressed I was of any team.
The Auburn Tigers.
They
look good. Well, let me say, the defense looked good. The defense is great. But they found a way. They didn't quit.
I'm gonna tell you, if I was Oregon, I would be upset right now, because they should have won that football game.
They had a chance to put it away.
They had chances to put that game away, and you can say what you want to, but Auburn took the game from them. Oregon was basically ahead and in control of that game the whole time. And the freshman went down there, and he didn't look good much.
I mean, his stats,
he looked okay.
Stats weren't that good.
No, they wasn't good.
But
he
looked
good
confident.
At all.
He looked confident.
He looked confident.
He didn't look timid. He didn't look shy of the situation.
No.
He's going to be good.
Yeah, and we've seen Auburn when they get a little confidence in how they can row, they can get things going. And
that's a big confidence.
They've got a tough schedule. They've got to go to LSU, to Texas A&M, to Florida. They get Alabama and Georgia at home. That's 5 games that they are going to be underdogs in. And they could have and probably should have lost that game, but they won it.
They found a way.
And that is not going to do anything but build confidence for that freshman, Bo Nix. To me, he looked outstanding.
He did. He did a good job.
First game.
Yeah, it was his first game.
He's not
he missed
going to do
throws
anything but grow from that.
He's got he's 18. So.
Hey, that's a solid win. That's the best win of the season right now. Now the LSU and Texas game this weekend will change that.
Yeah.
But so far in the year, that's the biggest win of the year. Say what you want. So that's basically week 1.
Week 1.
Week 1 is almost in the books. Louisville and Notre Dame tonight at Louisville.
See what Notre Dame's got.
We'll see what Notre Dame's got. I expect Notre Dame to come out solid.
See what Louisville's got. Should they be better this year?
Can they be any worse? I mean,
I don't know if
they
can be
fired their coach.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. I expect Notre Dame to roll tonight. I expect them to win big. The polls will come out in the morning. Basically, with Notre Dame, we're assuming that they're going to win the game. I think that the top 10 is going to remain the same. You probably will see some movement with Auburn.
Will Auburn sneak in the 10?
I think they'll move up. How close they get, I don't know. But, that for them, it goes in front of them. The season is in front of them this year.
Yeah. But
I expect the top 10 to be basically the same as what it was this past year.
This week.
I think you're going to have Alabama and Clemson. Clemson number 1, deservingly so.
Yeah.
You're going to have Oklahoma. You're going to have Ohio State up there. Ohio State looks good with Fields at quarterback.
They did.
Mm-hmm. They put up some good numbers, and we're going to find out. It's for the Big Ten. It's going to come down between
Michigan,
Ohio State, and Michigan.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that plays out at the end. And this week will be better than last week as far as the games. Last week we only had matchups between 2 ranked teams. Week 2, now we've gotten the game of the week, as we've talked about, is LSU at Texas, a matchup of top 10 teams between the SEC and the Big 12. And this is a huge game, and it is at Texas. And the winner of this game, is bound to reap the rewards. And we will see how that happens. Who do you think will win?
I want to pick LSU, but I think Texas. I'm feeling Texas.
Yeah, Texas at home. I would love for LSU to win, but I'm with you. I think Texas at home is going to be tough to beat.
It's going to be tough. The crowd's going to be going.
Tough to beat. I think it's.
They're feeling it. Texas is feeling it that they're back, or they're on the way back to being the Texas of old.
The only thing I would be surprised at is a blowout. One way. I expect it to be a close game.
Unless there's a lot of turnovers, it's going to probably come down in the fourth quarter. My opinion.
The the next another big game this weekend of ranked teams, not top 10s, but top 12 teams, is Texas A&M at Clemson.
Clemson's an 18-point
favorite. And last year, Texas A&M played Clemson closer than anybody.
Took them to the wire, didn't they?
Took them to the wire, and they had that fumble go through the end zone there at the end. You remember the pylon and all that?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a feel on this one. I
do. I love Texas A&M
to cover.
I love for Texas A&M to be in the game at the end, and they have a chance to win the game at the end. And we will see. Give me the 18 points all day, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I expect Texas A&M to compete in this game and have a chance to win the game. Did you hear the offensive lineman for Texas A&M guaranteeing a victory this weekend?
I saw it.
And then Jimbo basically said he shouldn't have said that. But I think Jimbo Fisher is a great coach. I think Jimbo Fisher is as good as anybody besides Nick Saban. And we know what happened in year 2 with Nick Saban. We know what happened with year 2 with Urban Meyer. We know what happened in year 2 with these programs, with these big-time football coaches.
So you think Texas A&M's year?
I think Texas A&M has a chance to win. I think Texas A&M, they play Clemson, they play Alabama at home, and they play at Georgia. I think at the end of the year they will get a win against one of those teams. I don't know what team it is, but I think Texas A&M will beat one of the 3 teams. I think that Jimbo Fisher is that type of coach. And we will see.
He's good with quarterbacks for sure.
Another big game, Stanford at Southern Cal. That's going to go a long way to deciding the Pac-12.
So there was no line. Is there a line?
I don't think that there is a line
because of the quarterback being injured for Southern Cal.
So Southern Cal,
Daniels is out.
JT Daniels is out, and
will they just take it off the board? Probably.
They will eventually post a line. Southern Cal is the game is a pick'em right now.
Okay.
So it is a pick'em.
And that's at Southern Cal.
It's at Southern Cal, and that game is going to go a long way. And for Helton to keep his job, he better win this game.
Urban's looking over his shoulder, huh?
Yep. He better. He is. Other games of note, Vandy at Purdue. That's SEC. Purdue's 8-point favorite. They had an ugly loss last week as well. West Virginia at Missouri. Missouri's a 12-point favorite. I could not believe that. Another game that I find interesting is Cincinnati at Ohio State. Ohio State's a 16.5-point favorite. Justin Fields looked great. I would say he looked very good for Ohio State in week 1, but Cincinnati looked good.
They did
when they played UCLA. And
that should be
an interesting game.
16.5. Ohio State is favored, so
I really like Cincinnati in that game.
Okay.
To keep it close, to keep it closer than 16.5. We mentioned Alabama earlier, a 54.5-point favorite.
That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of points. I don't think the over and unders, but like 63. So they're basically asking you, will New Mexico State score more than a touchdown? Yeah. So,
Nebraska, Colorado.
Nebraska's a 6-point favorite, as is Ole Miss is a 6-point favorite over Arkansas. And after how Ole Miss looked against Memphis, I'm really surprised at that. But Arkansas didn't look much better against Portland State. So another game in the SEC that is interesting is BYU at Tennessee. What happens if Pruitt does not get that type of loss, we started.
Well, now Tennessee's favored in this game.
They're favored
how?
in this game. I don't know how, but BYU didn't look that good either. But
Tennessee lost to Georgia State.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. If Tennessee loses to Georgia State, that is a type of loss that will destroy a team, that will kill the confidence.
Will they throw the towel in, or will they come back and fight?
Quit. So, and if Jeremy Pruitt, I never thought Jeremy Pruitt was going to be on the hot seat. But if he rolls out a 2-10 season,
it's hot.
It's hot. And
surely they'll give him 3 years.
I would think so. But if you can't beat Georgia State in year 2, and this for me is a must-win game for Jeremy Pruitt.
Oh, absolutely. If you go 0-2 and one of your losses is to Georgia State to start the year, how do you survive?
At home, losing 2 games at home when you're expecting
the fans are all ready to fire him.
Oh, they were fit to behold.
Oh yeah, they're ready to fire him.
So that is an interesting game for Jeremy Pruitt for Tennessee, and we're going to see. College football is good when Tennessee is good. It's good for having those big. USC needs to be good. It's good when you have those big names. Nebraska
need to be good.
To be good. That's good for college football. So we will see. So that's basically week 1 in a nutshell.
I'm looking forward to week 2.
We've got a lot of good games coming up in week 2, JB.
I'm ready for the big one, the LSU Texas. That's the one I want to see.
Yes, I'm looking forward to. And remember that I told you that I expect Texas A&M to go down to the wire with Clemson.
We'll see.
I've called that.
Let's
we'll
write
see.
This down.
Write it down. Texas A&M carries Clemson. I'm not saying they'll win. I'm saying they're going to carry it to the very end. Okay. At the end, the fourth quarter, they'll have a chance to win. Now, we'll see.
Yeah.
We will see. So with that, week 1 is in the book. That is your wrap up for week 1. A lot of exciting stuff coming for week 2. We went over the games. We're coming to you again live from She Shed Radio Studios, and thank you guys for watching us, and check us out at cfbbroadcast.com as we're trying to get that website up off the ground and rolling. And thank you much for listening.
See you next week.
And we'll see you guys next Sunday evening. Take care.